I'm not taking you to the concert. I'm taking him with me, she said clearly, even though I was the one who had bought the concert tickets. I didn't reply. I just waited for her to leave. When she came back home from the concert, the entire scene had changed, and there was a note waiting for her. My name is Daniel, and I'm a 29-year-old mechanical engineer at a mid-sized manufacturing firm in Ohio. I've always been the kind of guy who keeps his head down, works hard, and tries to do right by the people I care about. I'm not flashy. I don't need to be the center of attention. I just wanted a simple life with someone who valued the same things I did: loyalty, honesty, and effort. I met Ivy 3 years ago at a mutual friend's barbecue. She was magnetic in a way I'd never experienced before. Long auburn hair, sharp green eyes, and this laugh that could fill up a room. She worked as a marketing coordinator for a boutique agency downtown, and she had this energy about her, like she was always chasing the next exciting thing. I fell for her hard. Maybe too hard. We moved in together after a year. Got a small 2-bedroom apartment near the river. It wasn't much, but it was ours. I worked overtime most weeks to cover rent and utilities because Ivy's income was inconsistent. She'd tell me about her dreams, traveling, starting her own business, going to concerts and festivals. I wanted to support all of it. I thought that's what love was. Sacrifice. Giving someone the life they deserved. But over the past 6 months, things started feeling different. Like I was living with a stranger who wore Ivy's face but didn't have her heart anymore. Update 1. It started small. Ivy would come home late from work without much explanation. She'd be glued to her phone during dinner, smiling at the screen in ways she hadn't smiled at me in months. When I asked who she was texting, she'd say it was just work stuff or her girlfriends. I didn't push. I trusted her. That was my first mistake. Then, about 2 months ago, she mentioned a guy named Austin. He was a creative director at her agency, and she talked about him constantly. Austin said this. Austin suggested that. Austin thinks we should try this campaign angle. At first, I brushed it off. People talk about their coworkers. It's normal. It's harmless. But then she started going out more. Team drinks, she'd say. Networking event. Client dinner. I'd sit at home with leftover pizza, watching TV shows we used to watch together, waiting for her to text me goodnight. Sometimes she wouldn't. Sometimes she'd stumble in at 2 a.m., reeking of expensive cologne that definitely wasn't mine, and collapse into bed without a word. I remember one night in particular, October 23rd. I'd made her favorite dinner, chicken parmesan from scratch, something I rarely had time to do. I set the table, lit candles, the whole thing. She texted me at 7:30 p.m. saying she'd be home by 8. Then 8:30. Then 9. At 10:15, I ate alone, cold pasta on a plate that had been warm an hour ago. She came home at 11:47 p.m. Where were you? I asked, trying to keep my voice calm. I told you. Work thing. 4 hours. She sighed, already annoyed. Daniel, I'm tired. Can we not do this? Do what? Ask where my girlfriend was. You're being controlling. That word hit me like a slap. Controlling. I'd never been controlling. I'd given her all the freedom in the world. Maybe too much. In early November, I saw an ad for a concert. The Midnight Echo, Ivy's favorite band since college. They were playing a sold-out show on December 14th at the venue downtown. Tickets were expensive, like $200 each, but I knew how much she loved them. She'd been talking about wanting to see them live for over a year. She had their posters in our bedroom. She played their songs every morning. I worked extra hours for 2 weeks straight, skipped lunches, stayed late doing inventory checks that weren't even my job. I scraped together the money. For $100 total. It wiped out most of what I'd saved that month, but I didn't care. I wanted to see her face light up. I wanted us to have something good again. On November 30th, I finally told her over dinner. We were eating takeout Chinese, beef and broccoli for me, orange chicken for her. Hey, so, I got us something, I said, sliding the printed tickets across the table. She looked down at them. Her face changed. Not excitement. Not gratitude. Confusion. Maybe even irritation. You bought concert tickets? She asked flatly. Yeah. For the Midnight Echo. December 14th. I know how much you love them. She stared at the tickets for a long moment, then looked up at me with something in her eyes I couldn't quite read. Daniel, I can't go with you. I blinked. What do you mean? I already made plans for that night. My stomach dropped. Plans? With who? She hesitated. Just for a second. But I caught it. Austin. The name hit me like a brick to the chest. Austin. I repeated slowly, trying to process. Yeah. We were going to check out this new rooftop bar that's opening that night. The Apex. It's kind of a work thing. Industry people will be there. A work thing. Daniel, don't make this weird. I'm not making it weird, Ivy. I just spent $400 on tickets to see your favorite band. The band you've been obsessed with for years. And you're telling me you'd rather go to a bar with some guy from your office? She crossed her arms defensively. It's not some guy. Austin is important to my career. This is networking. You wouldn't understand. That stung. Like she was implying I was too simple, too blue-collar to get it. Try me, I said, my voice harder than I intended. She sighed, like I was exhausting her. Look, I appreciate the gesture, but you should have asked me first. You can't just make plans for me without checking. I wanted it to be a surprise. Well, it's a surprise I can't use. We didn't talk much for the rest of the night. She went to bed early. I stayed up until 3 a.m., staring at those tickets on the kitchen counter, wondering when I'd become so disposable to her. Update 2. Over the next week, I kept thinking about that conversation. Something about it felt fundamentally wrong. The way she dismissed me so easily. The way she prioritized this Austin guy over something I'd worked hard to give her. The way she made me feel stupid for even trying. I tried to bring it up again on December 3rd. We were getting ready for bed. Hey, about the concert. Daniel, I already told you. I have plans. Can't you reschedule? This is the Midnight Echo. You've been dying to see them. She looked at me like I was being unreasonable. Like I was the problem. Why are you pushing this so hard? Because I care about you. Because I wanted to do something nice for us. Us. She laughed, but it wasn't a kind laugh. It was bitter. Mocking. Daniel, when was the last time we actually had fun together? You work all the time. You're tired all the time. You fall asleep on the couch at 9 p.m. I need to be around people who have energy, who want to actually live. That hit harder than anything she'd said before. I felt something crack inside my chest. I work all the time because I'm trying to build a life for us, I said quietly. I'm trying to make sure we're stable, that we can afford things. I didn't ask you to do that. The words hung in the air like smoke. You didn't ask me to provide. I didn't ask you to sacrifice your entire personality to be some boring robot who only thinks about rent and bills. I stood there, speechless. This was the woman I'd spent 3 years with. The woman I'd imagined proposing to someday. And she was looking at me like I was an obstacle she needed to get around. I didn't sleep that night. The next few days were tense. We barely spoke. She'd leave early for work and come home late. I started noticing other things. Her phone was always face down now. She'd changed her passcode. I only knew because I saw her enter a different pattern one morning. She'd started wearing perfume to work, something expensive I'd never bought her. Then, on December 10th, 4 days before the concert, she said it. We were in the kitchen. I was making coffee before my shift. She was getting ready to leave for work, checking herself in the hall mirror. I'm taking Austin to the concert, she said, not even looking at me. I froze. The coffee pot was still in my hand. What? The tickets. I'm taking Austin. I turned around slowly, carefully setting the pot down before I dropped it. You're taking the tickets I bought to go with him? Yeah. He's a huge fan of the band too. It makes more sense. It makes more sense. Don't be dramatic, Daniel. I'm not being dramatic, Ivy. I'm trying to understand how you think it's okay to take tickets I bought for us, tickets I worked overtime for, and give one to another man. She finally looked at me. Her eyes were cold, distant, like I was a stranger. I'm not taking you to the concert. I'm taking him with me, she said clearly, enunciating every word. Even though I was the one who had bought the concert tickets. I didn't reply. My hands were shaking. I was afraid of what I might say. So I just stood there, watching her grab her purse and walk toward the door. She paused for a second, her hand on the doorknob. You'll get over it, she said. Then she left. I just waited for her to leave. Update 3. After she walked out that morning, I sat on the couch for a long time. Maybe an hour. Maybe 3. I lost track. I wasn't angry. I wasn't sad. I was numb. Hollow. Like someone had scooped out everything inside me and left just the shell. But then something shifted. I called in sick to work. I spent the day thinking. Really thinking. About the last 3 years. About all the times I'd made excuses for her. All the times I convinced myself that things would get better if I just tried harder, gave more, loved her enough. But love isn't supposed to feel like drowning. I thought about my parents. They'd been married 35 years. My dad once told me, "Son, if someone makes you feel like you're too much or not enough, they're not your person." I hadn't understood what he meant at the time. I understood now. By the time evening rolled around, I'd made a decision. I spent the next 3 days preparing. I didn't tell Ivy. I didn't argue. I didn't beg. I just moved quietly, methodically, like I was executing a plan I'd been building for months. On December 11th, I rented a U-Haul. On December 12th, I signed a lease on a small studio apartment across town. It was $850 a month, cheaper than what I'd been paying for half of our place. It had one room, a tiny kitchen, and a bathroom with questionable water pressure. But it was mine. Just mine. On December 13th, while Ivy was at work, I started packing. Everything that was mine. My clothes. My books. My tools. The coffee maker I'd brought into the relationship. The TV I'd bought last year. The couch my parents gave us, technically a gift to me. The bed frame I'd assembled. Even the small things. The shower curtain I'd purchased. The dish rack. The lamp on the nightstand. I worked for 8 hours straight. My buddy Chris came over to help with the heavy stuff. He didn't ask questions. He just showed up with his truck and his hands. "You sure about this, man?" he asked while we were loading the couch. "Yeah," I said. "I'm sure." By 9 p.m. on December 13th, everything was moved. I spent one more night in that empty apartment, sleeping on the floor in my sleeping bag, staring at the ceiling. I thought about all the conversations we'd had in that room. All the promises. All the plans that would never happen now. On December 14th, the day of the concert, Ivy came home around 4 p.m. to get ready. I'd come back just to watch her leave. To be there for the final moment. She showered, did her makeup, put on a black dress I'd never seen before. It was tight, expensive looking. She looked beautiful. She always did. She spent 45 minutes on her hair. She tried on 3 different pairs of earrings. She was getting ready for him, I realized. Not for the concert. For Austin. "I'll be back late," she said, grabbing her purse without looking at me. "Have fun," I said, my voice flat. She paused at the door, like she wanted to say something. Maybe she felt guilty. Maybe she didn't. But she didn't say anything. She just left, her heels clicking down the hallway, getting fainter and fainter until I heard the front door close. I waited until I heard her car pull out of the parking lot. Then I got to work on the final step. Final update. By the time Ivy got home that night, around 1:15 a.m., I heard from Chris, who lived in the same complex. The apartment was empty. Not messy. Not trashed. Empty. I'd moved every single thing I owned out. My clothes. My books. My furniture. The couch she used to curl up on during movies. Gone. The bed we slept in. Gone. The TV, the coffee table, the kitchen chairs, the silverware I'd brought from my old place. Gone. I'd even taken the shower curtain I'd bought, leaving just the rusty rod. What was left was her stuff. Just hers. Her clothes. Her decorations. Her expensive candles. Her marketing books. Her yoga mat. The apartment looked bare and sad, like a stage after the show's over. And on the counter, under a coffee mug so it wouldn't blow away, was a note. The note said, "Ivy, I hope the concert was everything you wanted. I hope Austin was worth it. I've spent 3 years giving you everything I had. My time. My money. My love. I thought that would be enough. I thought if I just kept trying, you'd see what we could be. But you made your choice. And now I'm making mine. The lease is in your name. Something you insisted on 2 years ago, remember? You said it would be easier for your credit. I'm grateful for that now. The utilities are still on until the end of the month. After that, it's your responsibility. I've taken everything that was mine. I'm not asking for anything back. Not the rent I paid. Not the tickets. Not the years. I just want you to know this. I deserve better. And I'm going to find it. Don't contact me. I've blocked your number. I've blocked you on everything. If you try to reach me at work, I'll have security remove you. I'm serious about this. Good luck with Austin. Or whoever comes after him. You're going to need it. Daniel." I'd already moved everything into my new studio across town. It wasn't much, barely 450 square feet, but it was mine. I unpacked that night, slowly, carefully, putting everything in its place. My books on the shelf I'd built myself. My clothes in the closet. My TV on the stand. I blocked her number at exactly 1:30 a.m. I blocked her on Instagram, Facebook, everything. I told our mutual friends, the real ones, the ones who knew what had been happening, that I didn't want updates. I didn't want to know. Chris texted me around 2 a.m. "Dude, I just heard her come home. Heard her scream your name. Heard her crying in the hallway. You good? Yeah, I texted back. I'm good. I slept better that night than I had in 6 months. She tried to reach me anyway, of course. Through email. Through mutual friends. She created new Instagram accounts to send me messages. They all said the same thing. That she was sorry. That she'd made a mistake. That she didn't realize what she had. That Austin meant nothing. I deleted every message without reading past the first line. 2 weeks later, she showed up at my workplace. I was in the parking lot, about to head in for my shift, when I saw her car. She got out, mascara running, looking like she hadn't slept in days. Daniel, please, she said. Please, just talk to me. No. I made a mistake. I know I did. I was confused. I was stupid. You were clear, I said. You made your choice. I choose you now. I want you back. I looked at her, really looked at her, and felt nothing. No anger. No love. Nothing. You don't get to choose now, I said. You had 3 years to choose me. You chose him. You chose yourself. That's fine. But I'm choosing me now. And I'm choosing not to let you back in. Daniel. I have to get to work, I said, walking past her toward the building. She tried to follow, but security stopped her at the door. I'd already warned them she might show up. I watched through the glass as they escorted her back to her car. I haven't seen her since. 3 months later, I'm doing okay. Better than okay, actually. I got a promotion at work in late January, lead engineer on a new project. The raise was significant, enough that I could finally start saving again, building something for myself instead of pouring everything into someone else's dreams. I started going to the gym again, something I'd abandoned when I was working all that overtime. I picked up a hobby I'd abandoned years ago, woodworking. My dad taught me when I was a kid, but I'd let it go. Now I'm building a coffee table for my apartment. It's coming together nicely. Solid oak. Dovetail joints. Something that'll last. I heard through a friend, Chris, who still lived in the old complex, that Ivy and Austin didn't last. Apparently, he wasn't as serious as she thought. He was already seeing someone else within 3 weeks of the concert. Ivy tried to keep the apartment, but couldn't afford it on her own. She had to move back in with her parents in February. She's 28 years old, living in her childhood bedroom again. I don't feel sorry for her. I don't feel triumphant either. I just feel free. I'm not the same guy I was 3 months ago. I'm not the guy who would have let someone treat me like an option, like a backup plan, like a wallet with legs. I know my worth now, and I'm not settling for anything less than someone who sees it too. I went on a date last week, actually. Just coffee. Her name's Harper. She's a teacher at the elementary school near my apartment. We talked for 3 hours. She laughed at my jokes. She asked about my woodworking. She insisted on paying for her own coffee. I don't know if it'll go anywhere, but it felt good to be with someone who was actually present, who wasn't checking her phone every 5 minutes, who looked at me like I mattered. Edit 1. Someone asked if I ever found out what happened at the concert. Chris told me later that Ivy posted photos on Instagram that night. Her and Austin, front row, his arm around her waist. She looked happy. I'm glad she had fun. Hope it was worth $400 and a 3-year relationship. Edit 2. No, I don't regret leaving. Not for a second. Some people asked if I thought I overreacted. I didn't. She disrespected me in the worst way possible. The concert was just the final straw. Edit 3. For everyone asking. Yes, the apartment really was completely empty. Just her stuff left behind. And yes, she really did have to figure out all the bills on her own. Sometimes the best revenge is just letting someone deal with the consequences of their own choices.